Detroit. Flint is a very poor city. It was run very terribly by the governor, by the city mayor. So guess what happened? The city became bankrupt. Happens in Connecticut. The city that I'm from is bankrupt. They mismanage the funds. The city is bankrupt. So what happens is it gets into receivership, so the state takes over the city. And one of the things they said is, this city is spending so much money buying water. We have all this water. They have a dam, a water supply in Flint. So they said, why should we spend $2 million, I think it's $2 million a year. This is in 2014. Why should we spend $2 million a year buying our water from Detroit when we have water in our own backyard?
Yeah, we can use.
Okay, so, right idea, we're gonna use our own water. Because the pipes have the lead pipes, the water was full of salt. It was so high in sodium content that once the water from the Flint Reservoir Dam went through the pipes, it ate up the pipes. And when it ate the pipes, all the sodium from the sodium was so strong, it ate the pipes. So guess what got mixed in with the water?
Yeah.
Lead. That's what the pipes were made of. So that's how the lead poisoning happened in Flint, Michigan.
Then the water was good before.
It was fine.
Yeah,
it was beautiful, but they were trying
the
to
pipes,
save. No, they tried to save money. They were getting their water supply from Detroit, and the water was fine. But this water had such high salt, sodium content, that when it passed through the pipes, it ate through the pipes, and the lead got into the water. And that happened in 2014. So that's what we call the Flint, Michigan water crisis. This is important to know before you do your writing. I thought it would be good to have some background, and then I have a little video. America is Flint. It's just not happening in Flint. What happened in Flint came out in the public, but it's happening in Baltimore. And he's talking about this is a problem of society, not just of one city that was negligent. Our whole society is negligent. So it was a law where landlords had to make sure there wasn't lead paint, because we probably talked about this before. Little kids would chew on windowsills. They're so hungry.
Yeah,
and they chew on the windowsills, and then the paint was lead, and that becomes a neurological problem. And we saw that when people have ingest a lot of lead, they become more
nervous,
dangerous, more apt to commit a crime. So there's so many repercussions, so many results of ingesting lead. So that's what the article is about. So what I would ask you guys...
Now didn't find any solution until now?
They've got to go back to Detroit now. It's going to cost $12 million, but it doesn't happen like this. No, so they're now using bottled water. So that's what his article is about. So who has questions on the article? So it's a form of abuse, right? It's a form of child abuse. He's calling it state-sponsored child abuse because they knew they didn't test the water. So this is interesting. It talks about 4.9% of the children tested for lead turn out to have elevated levels. But also in New York City, the figure was 6.7%. And in Detroit, 1/5 of the kids had lead poisoning. So it's not just in Flint, because America is Flint. This is happening in inner cities in the United States. So we're all Flint. So according to the Center for Disease Control, 1 of every 5 children suffers from lead poisoning. They're somehow ingesting lead. There's 24 million homes in America that have deteriorated lead paint. Because even if a toddler breathes it, it could affect their brain. They could have brain damage. And it talks about in 1904, an Australian doctor researched what happened when somebody diagnoses, when somebody digests lead. And in 43, a doctor in Boston found a student tried to stab his teacher, and he had elevated levels of lead poisoning. So it leads to brain problems. It later becomes violent or criminal activities. So do you have your article, Tiger? Because you're going to need to write about this on Wednesday. You don't seem very interested in what we're doing now. This is for you. Well, because this is like your way that you want to get out of ESL, you're going to need to pass this test. So I would be paying attention right now. I wouldn't be in la la land. So Christoph, because we all go back to Christoph, who's a really big human rights activist, he goes back and talks about this 2-year-old boy named Malaki. Did everybody read this about Malaki? And Malaki had lead poisoning, and he is from Baltimore. and he couldn't speak, and this they think was going to be permanent because he had ingested lead. So he's talking about the steps. We have to have funding to make sure that landlords don't have lead in their paint, that water is without lead, right? And if a child tests positive, they have to find the source so they can eliminate it and make sure other kids don't test positive. So he says every urban land has lead. Urban would be any city. They all have lead, right? So this is what he's talking about. And don't go, the last paragraph's not important, he does this contest. But he's saying, let's recognize the catastrophe in Flint as a wake-up call to address not just one city's lead poisoning tragedy, but it's America's. So you'll be asked to respond to this with 3 questions. So you want to write, right now you could all be writing your introduction, right? And there'll be 3 questions that you'll be asked to respond to that are in the article. One question will be, the answer will be in the article, the second question, but the third will be an opinion, right? And then you'll conclude it. So I'm gonna give you back your, and I waited for today, I'm gonna give you back your writing practice exams that we took when did we take these? In November. So you could see what you scored and what you would need to do everybody's fine in this class, but to score better, you'll see where your areas are of strengths and weaknesses. So you take these with me, and I would take the